Welcome, everyone. Great privilege today. My guest, I guess we're both guests here, Marilou. We're told we're going to have a conversation about volunteerism. And Senator Marilou McPhedron is in town today to make a presentation. And Marilou was one of my students way back when, and she brought a couple of her girlfriends that I believe also. Certainly they were in school when I first started my career up at NACI. So I'm really pleased to have you here today. Volunteerism, I know that to me it's the thing to do. Without volunteering for something, I'd have nothing to do, I don't think, really. And you promote volunteerism wherever you go. Tell us a little bit about the volunteerism that you promote.
Thank you very much. And I really have to say, it's a bit of a challenge for me to call you Dave and not to call you Mr. Bennet.
A few people have had that problem, but
yeah, from our high school.
Yeah, it'll work out fine.
Our high school days. Volunteerism is something that I think people often consider to be an activity that doesn't make that much of a difference. Oh, wow. And I see it exactly the opposite. I work across Canada, and I've worked in a bunch of other countries, and I think in Canada we don't fully appreciate how much volunteerism is woven into the DNA of our communities across this country. And very often the volunteers historically have been women. That's probably less the case now with much higher number of women in the workforce and just with the additional pressures. But for the organizations that have survived, and I have to say one of the most heartbreaking aspects of the earlier 2000s was when we lost the women's institutes. You know, women's institutes had operated in rural communities,
right, yes,
like right here, for 100 years. And that was one of the organizations across the prairies that held communities together.
And there was that, and then the fraternal organizations, yes, and service organizations, yeah, like Rotary and Lions also, but they're struggling now too. Things seem to be moving a little differently. I feel the younger people people say they don't volunteer like our generation did. Well, I disagree, they do, but it's in a different way. They want a single project and work on it, and that's it, they're done. Where we belong to service clubs and institutes and that sort of thing, where it was a continual thing for a number of years. In fact, till you died in lots of cases, you were a member of it. So I don't think volunteerism is dying, but we'd sure like to have more of it.
Well, and I think that for me growing up here in Neepawa, the way in which our lives, and I'm here with two other former students of yours,
yes, Chris
Jacobson Paramuter and also Bev Ann Murray. We're all volunteers, and we were raised to be, yes, volunteers. And I think that what also really shaped our lives here were the number of places where we could go that the service clubs made possible. Riverside Park for swimming. Yeah. I mean, there's a long list. And it was so exciting when we found out that you were part of the restoration of the Roxy Theater,
yes, yeah. Well,
which of course we grew up with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a wonderful project, yeah, that I got involved in, and maybe we could take a moment. You know, Brian Bailey was the chair of that, and Doreen Sage looked after the properties. John Fork, Lyle Byram, and myself were the five that really got that going. And for the first year, we ran movies on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I booked the movies, and I was the treasurer, and that was all my part of it, and so on. But we averaged 143 admissions per night.
Wow. In that first year.
Well, it's down now. And the reason we did is because we had volunteer teams running the Roxy. We had 26, I think, different teams of 12 to 15 people on them. And they each took a turn twice a year to run the show that weekend.
So you had a lot of people that signed up.
A lot of people. The movie theater had not been open or in operation for 15 years, perhaps, something like that. So it was new in a sense to a lot of them. And we did gear towards youth That was the idea of the project. They'd done a survey in town as to what the youth would like to see, and it came back a non-structured activity that you didn't have to belong to a club or whatever. So then somebody, it wasn't me, came up with the idea of refurbishing the Roxy.
So what did it take? Because that building had been sitting neglected for a long time.
It was a good brick building, so it wasn't a major concern in that regard. So, I mean, we rented it from the owner for the first year, I'm guessing $15,000 maybe, or $20,000, something like that. And no, I'm wrong. That's what we paid for it eventually. Yeah, it's we bought the thing. Maybe it was 30, but no, any higher than that. We bought it after the first year when we
Who bought it?
We set up a Nipua Theatre Incorporated.
Oh, okay, a non-profit corporation.
Non-profit corporation
Clever.
is what it was.
Clever.
And it was set up, called the Roxy Theatre, but it had that fancy corporate name, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So so it was really successful, and it was very successful for years and years and years. And it still is successful, but they need volunteers. So if you're watching us today and you're thinking you need a place to volunteer, if we can convince you volunteering is so great, call the station here. Get a hold of Kate Jackman Atkinson, the president, I think she still is. Katie Ath works in the basement of this building, or somebody with the theater, and offer to help. So that's the story about the Roxy. And just I should mention, the book that I gave you, the book that Rick Sparling, a number of our viewers know about Rick Sparling. In fact, I interviewed him yesterday or the day before on his new book about baseball in the community. And he wrote one on the Roxy, to which a number of us submitted articles and that sort of thing. So
Dave, I want to ask you about your tie.
Oh, surely. All right, well, that's a rotary tie. Each year, the Rotary has a different tie and scarf, like a particular design. And one of my, I don't know if this would be volunteer or not, but it was with Rotary, so I guess you'd say it was.
For sure.
I was chosen to lead the GSE team that year, and we went to England. So I had 3 gals, including an RCMP officer, a girl in middle management of the Water Services Board of Moose Jaw, I think. I had a farm gal, lost her first name for a minute, Jury, here from Nipua, and a man from Saskatoon that was in law enforcement area and so on. Anyway, we went to England for a month. So we made presentations to all the Rotary clubs that we were hosted by over there. So I knew about these ties. I'd heard about them before, so I bought a tie for the gentleman and myself and 3 scarves for the ladies. And we wore our dress clothes when we went to Rotary meetings.
Well, I have to say that's the biggest rotary wheel tie I've ever seen. You can't miss that one.
But it's interesting. I've noticed it hanging on the rack. The wheel is not circular anymore because the tie is stretched.
It's stretched, yeah.
But that's all right.
Well, and also just another bit of a shout out for Rotary. I've been really very privileged to work with Rotarians in a number of different communities. And I think sometimes when we're working at the community level, we lose sight of the reality that Rotary is the largest volunteer-driven organization in the world.
Right, yes.
And what happens in so many communities, in so many countries, it's Rotarians that are giving their time and their skills and their money to make it possible.
We're losing in the Western world here, we're losing membership. Maybe we've run our course or something or other, but it's growing elsewhere. It's growing.
Oh, I don't think you've run your course.
Well,
I'm hoping your listeners will know that they're really welcome to join Rotary.
We want more Rotarians. Yeah. Well, we're very lucky right now, and you don't know this, but we have a new Rotary Club in Nipua that called the New Wave, and it's 11 younger women.
Okay.
And they're a satellite club of our club. So they technically belong to our club, but they run their own meetings and projects and things like that. And they're just getting going. They just got started.
I didn't know that was possible. That's great.
Rotary reached out to their members and leadership, I guess, to find out how can you maintain, how can we get the membership? Because things change over time. So they have satellite clubs that you can do this with. They have online clubs that you can belong to. They have special project clubs, a special purpose club, maybe I should call it as such. So there's a lot of variations of the club format. And the old boys shirt and tie club doesn't really exist much anymore, which is fine.
Yeah.
Our rural club in Nipawin will be celebrating their 75th year next spring.
And I think what a lot of other folks don't know is that the very first international Rotary Club from outside of the United States was actually Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Winnipeg #1, we call them, that's right.
That's right.
First, they made Rotary International. And they still have a fairly large membership in that as
I've
well.
been to a number of their meetings and they're very well attended.
Well, when you were in Winnipeg at the University of Winnipeg,
yes,
you probably had that opportunity and so on. One of the other programs of Rotary that I'd like, it's volunteer driven, a lot of volunteerism with it, is our youth exchange programs. And the long-term youth
and your scholarships.
Our scholarship, we put a scholarship, not personally me, but our club does, to the high school every year. The student exchange program is 1 year, and one student comes to Nipawin from another country, if we're in the program, and one of our students goes out to another country, and we maybe would have 20 or 30 countries in our pod or our exchange group or whatever that we could set up. And Myra and I personally have hosted 2 boys from Australia that we call our Australian sons, of course, right?
Yeah.
And many, many others in the community have hosted as well. Ivan Trail was one of the strongest proponents of that. He was, in fact, he got us involved. Before I became a Rotarian, we hosted
he
the
was
first lad from
my principal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and mine too, but I was teaching under him, with him. With him, he was my principal in that sense too. So that's a very strong program, a very valuable program, I think I want to say. We haven't had a student for probably 5 or 6 years because we ran out of host families. We just couldn't find enough people that would host somebody, so we weren't able to send somebody out and receive somebody in.
Well, again, maybe we've got someone watching, might not be a Rotarian, but I'm sure if they contacted you, Dave, and they were able to offer hosting,
absolutely,
might get that started.
Yeah, we never did have to be only Rotarians that would host. In fact, Rain Pryor, who's a lot of people that view here know her, seen her on camera.
She's filming us right now.
Yes, she's filming us. Hello, Rain. Was a Rotary exchange student to the Philippines a number of years ago, as such. And she's going to be the president of Rotary next year, Nipawin Rotary. And she's making that one of her major points. She'd like to get the exchange program up and running again. So,
well, I just want to give a thank you to Rain because she's really been fantastic in making this possible for us to have this conversation. And then a little bit later for us to shift gears and allow me the honor of presenting to you one of the King Charles III Coronation medals that have been designated entirely for volunteers and community service. And each parliamentarian is allotted a certain number of medals. We had to do our research. We had to put in a list of nominations to the Governor General. And then we had to wait to get the go-ahead to be able to present.
Oh, great.
And so we've all green lights. And here we are in Nipawin today. And it's going to be a great pleasure to leave you with something else to pin. You're going to have to arrange your pins a little bit there to make room for your medal, but I'm sure you'll do it.
I will. Well, thank you very much, Marilou, and I'm very honored to be receiving it. And you know, there's 3 others that have received this medal in our area here. Mary Murray, that everybody watching will probably know. Robert Ferguson, who I taught with at the high school, and Eileen Clark, who was our MLA prior to this. And I know about them because they were in the paper, right? There's probably more around locally that I don't know about, but all of us, I've heard them say, and I concur, that we almost feel like representatives of all the other people that, because there's all kinds of other people that could be chosen that do volunteer work. And it's the life of a community, particularly, you know, small towns. I've never lived in a city, so I shouldn't say this, I guess, because I don't compare. I couldn't compare, but it is the lifeblood of a small town. I was thinking of a little phrase this morning that in a small town, everybody knows everybody's business.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of volunteerism, that's a good thing. Because if I need somebody for something or other, I know their business.
Right.
And
right.
I know who might. And if I don't, then I know somebody that might. And that's really how it all works. And then we all pull together.
And then I think the other part of that is often when someone or a family, when they are in need, mm-hmm. it's because they have a neighbor or someone who's noticed that,
yes.
to be able to try to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of places, we also have people living in isolation that are in a lot of distress. And I think, that the way in which volunteers knit together their neighborhoods, their community, their town. And my experience, I've lived in a lot of cities, and although I was born and raised here in Nipawa, and my experience is most cities are just a cluster of neighborhoods.
Oh, right, and those neighborhoods are like small towns.
That they are, they really are.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure.
And the neighborhoods that look the best, the neighborhoods that have the most activities, are the neighborhoods with volunteers.
Well, every hockey rink in Manitoba, or all across the country for that matter, it pretty well operates on volunteers, yeah. or curling rinks, or any of those sorts of things. All your sports organizations, they all do. One of my volunteer that I volunteered a lot was refereeing. I really enjoy refereeing hockey, and I didn't do much baseball, but I did volleyball and football in particular. One of the programs that I'd like to mention is the junior hockey referee program that I facilitated, might be the better word. When my boys were going through hockey, and they were, 10, 11, that sort of thing there, and there were younger ones, and I was refereeing at that point, and I thought, well, these kids, because it's such a wonderful experience for kids to become a referee. Like, it builds character, mm-hmm. confidence, mm-hmm. You got to know the rules. It's really good.
It's discipline.
Yeah, discipline. Mm-hmm. My two boys were keen to do it. And so I thought, well, we got some other boys, and we had a couple of girls too. There was no girls hockey back then, but we did have a couple of girl referees. And so I took that part over from the Minor Hockey Association, and you have to go to, every year you had to go to a certification day to get your certified to referee that year and so on. So I was probably having 10 to 15 referees that I kind of looked after and assigned which games they'd go to and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that.
Well, I want to take that a step further, because I know this from talking to a number of other employers in different situations. And if we have young people watching, or parents of young people, just to share with you that one of the really positive indicators in someone's CV, a young person's CV, is that they've been involved in organized sports. And if they've been involved as well in some kind of coaching, some kind of refereeing, that raises it another level. And that's partly because, of course, what employers are looking for is young people who can self-manage. And that's a lot of what is learned through organized sports, and also their refereeing and other responsibilities that are absolutely integral to making the sport possible.
And for those that aren't sports-minded, those same possibilities and same aptitudes can be got through music, through drama, through 4-H, through, there's all kinds of figure skating, kinds of things out there, that all of that. And it's very important. I had a friend of mine told me, he was once asked, it costs a lot of money to have your two boys in hockey. Is that well money spent or whatever? He said, if they ended up in jail because they were out drinking, he says, it probably cost me more in the long run.
A lot more.
So I thought it was kind of a neat answer.
And not just the parent, but it costs society a lot more.
That's true, yes. Yeah. So he was, and there's a lot of good people that are doing a lot of good things.
So Dave, I'm going to shift the spotlight a little bit more on you in this conversation, and just ask about when you think about all of these different volunteer activities that you've done, and I'm going to guess that you were a volunteer even as a young person.
A little bit, but I didn't actually get into it till I started teaching. I think teaching really taught me more about that, I think. But anyway, go ahead with your question.
What, just off the top of your head, what are the highlights? What comes to mind?
Oh, well, I mentioned the Safe Grad program.
Not on air.
Did I not mention that on air?
I don't think so.
Oh, Rain's shaking her head there. Well, that's one I'm really most proud of. Up to, let's see, my oldest graduated in 1986. That's correct. And up 5 years previous to that, they'd had Safe Grad, as they called it, but it was the bush party in a farmyard, that sort of stuff. And, kids had to turn their keys into their car, when they came in the yard and so on. They couldn't get them back till later and so on. But as a parent that night, that didn't sit well with me. Like, I was worried and scared about that. And he came home okay. But I even thought, even if one of those grade 12s wasn't drinking, which a number wouldn't be, I think, you're tired from partying and excited and that, you get in your car and start to drive home and somebody else is driving home too, that it just wasn't a good idea. So during that next year, I started talking about making a safer grad. And with the help of Lyle Watson, who most of you know, because Lyle is an interviewer for a lot of programs on our television. He had a daughter that was graduating that next year. And with him, Barry Clark was the other parent. I got a hold of those two. I try to grab parents that I think can do the job and that would work well with me. And we organized a Safer Grad in the Yellowhead Center. We had lists of all the guests and nobody else got in. A lot of parents came. We had for a grad of probably 70 kids, we would probably have 50 of the parents there at some time or other doing something or other. So it became a family event, really. The kids, they thought the kids wouldn't like it, but they loved it. They really did. And everybody was driven home. I had parents in charge of the driving home and parents that drove. I mentioned Pat and Ernie Gwaziak, who a lot of the viewers would know. They had 2 sons and twin girls. So they were 3 years that they had graduates, and they ran that program, the driving home program, for those 3 years. So on the 4th year, I then said, well, can you help the next group, whatever? Well, what do you mean next group? We're going to do it. So they did it for like 6 years or something like that. So everybody got home safe. We never had a tragedy or a problem or anything at all in those. Well, I graduated in January 99, so it went 12 years or so, I guess, that I did it, and it's continuing to go even now.
Good.
So I did that as a parent, not as a teacher.
Great.
So, yeah,
a great
one
example.
I'm really, really proud of. And we had cooperation from the RCMP, Mental Liquor Commission. They were promoting these kinds of things too. So that was really great. And I guess the other one, the high school reunion that we ran.
Oh, yes.
Myra and I volunteer together a lot of things. We do work together.
I think Bevan and Chris came to that reunion. The big
Perhaps.
Lipowa High School
That was
reunion?
1998. We had 1,500 here, so that's that.
Oh my gosh, 83.
Oh, 83 was the town one. Yeah,
okay.
the town one, okay. Yeah, I wasn't involved in 83, too much. I was a town councillor at that time. We're talking off camera.
Yeah.
Explain to the viewers here, Marilou's good
Bevan and
friends
Chris
are over there.
are with us.
Yeah, I was town councillor, so I was in part of that program there. But we were able to, we found out, I get excited about this, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. No, it's great.
This was 1998. It was the 40th anniversary of NACI, because it started in 1958. It was the 70th anniversary of the NCI, which was the original building on the grounds there, because it started in 1928. And we had 5 people from 1928 there. Wow. Which was really neat. And halfway through all the planning, we discovered that the old Central School, do you remember the old Central School where Safeway was?
Yeah.
It was 1898. So it was actually 100 years, that institution.
So interesting, they're all 8s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so it was like 170 and 40 kind of thing. No, it was wonderful. And the people that we had to work with us, like in all the committees and that, they all work so hard and they all deserve credit and all deserve medals, in my opinion. So there's a couple of real feathers in my cap that I...
Well, I think we're getting to the end of our time to have this conversation, but maybe a way to close is just to pick up on your point about they all deserve medals. I agree with you.
Yes.
That wasn't an option. We had to make choices.
Yeah.
But maybe in a few minutes when I am able to present this medal to you, we'll think of it as not only to you,
Surely.
but as a celebration for all those amazing volunteers out there that are holding up their communities and knitting together the country. Because if there was ever a time that Canadians need to come together,
Yes.
it's right now. So I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And I'm looking forward to being able to present the medal to you.
Well, thank you very much for coming, Mary.
Okay.
That was a pleasure to meet and
Okay.
talk with you. So till next time, folks, another coffee chat. And we get people to interview, and some of us will be doing that. So good day.